All right, let's talk real briefly just about data management in CT. Think particularly about informatics, the way that we handle collections and classifications and storage. We'll talk about PACS and networking, as well as some standards for data storage and image acquisition. Storage devices, we'll look very generally at that kind of thing and just how images are distributed. So informatics is just a fancy term for the collection, classification, storage, retrieval, and dissemination of recorded information. And the kind of informatics programs that we use primarily are hospital information systems. So this would be like an EMR, or clinical information systems, ways to send information throughout the hospital. One really critical way that we deal with things is a physician order entry system. And sometimes this is ready baked into the EMR, but this is a lot of times where our CT orders stream from. And any kind of operator error can sometimes lead to some confusion. So we're constantly trying to double check, making sure we're doing the right thing, that the right order was ordered. Because every now and then physicians will ask a nurse or someone else to enter information for them into the CPOE, and in those instances, sometimes they might order, for example, a CT of the chest without contrast for like what's actually a CTA of the chest. What they meant was the patient doesn't need to drink any barium; they just need IV contrast. So there's a lot of errors that can result from that. EMRs, and then any kind of RIS, radiologic information system. We've talked about those as well. Typically, they receive information both from the radiologist dictation software, and they may receive information also from PACS. It's a way to route that information into the EMR. In the case of Baptist, the EMR, of course, is Epic. So sometimes RISs are also used for scheduling patient. Primarily, what we use them for is storing reports and billing. And then PACS is a picture archiving communication system. This is any kind of technology used for the storage, retrieval, distribution, display of images. Interestingly enough, within PACS we can even perform some post-processing options, like we can add annotations, we can magnify, zoom, move the image around. We may even be able to adjust window and level within PACS. Kind of the fundamentals of PACS. It is primarily used for networking. I mentioned that in the healthcare environment, we're largely stuck in the 1990s. So we're still using, we use some wireless networking, but we still might use a lot of like LANs, local area networks. And the reason for that is protection of patient data. So communicating stuff to PACS requires an HL7 connection from the CT scanner to PACS. PACS will then stream a lot of times into the radiologist dictation software, and so anything that we enter into PACS will probably automatically populate when the radiologist goes to dictate the image. And then as they interpret the image and send off the report, that normally goes from the RIS into some kind of indication in the EMR that the study has been read. But from a PACS point of view, we're talking about image acquisition from workstations sent to some kind of storage, and from that storage point, like there will be a PACS closet or some room full of the PACS server computers that's normally a really cold room. From that room we can send the images out to various clients. So within that room we have the server, and then all of the access points outside, whether it's via phone or from a computer or a laptop or whatever, we would call those clients. So network is basically any group of two or more computers linked together, and that can be done to share information or to share processing of information. What we primarily use for PACS and things like that are some kind of local area network, which is going to form some kind of a intranet, and then we have some kind of wireless connection into that. So Networking is basically the foundation of how PACS works, because it's using that client-server architecture. And in this day and age, computers are either servers or clients. Primarily the way that X-ray techs and CT techs interact with the computer is as a client. So the server is a computer that facilitates communication. Basically, it's where all the information resides. And then the server acts on request from any kind of client. So rather than the person inputting the stuff directly, it uses a remote access. Anytime we talk about network, one of the big limitations is bandwidth. And one of the ways I think about bandwidth and the limitations of it is, imagine you had a fire hose. That'd be a high bandwidth versus like a garden hose would be a low bandwidth. So the amount of data that can be transmitted between the 2 points in the network in any set of time is the network bandwidth. And image data can be compressed to make transmission more efficient. This is really kind of where a lot of computing streams from right now, is how compression works. And this is how cloud computing works. It's largely based on compression. For our purposes in PACS, we're trying to find compression schemes that are lossless, because we don't want to lose any pertinent diagnostic data that might be in the image. So the standards that we use for PACS, there's twofold. So there's some kind of DICOM standard, which is fairly universal. There are some exceptions to it, and there's some vendor by vendor differences kind of in how DICOM is implemented. There's like DICOM 3 or DICOM 4. But they're fairly universal, and generally any PACS will be able to communicate with like another PACS. So if, for example, I had a patient that was scanned at another hospital, they show up at my hospital with a CD, they may come to the CT department and ask us to upload the images, and so we would just move that those DICOM files from that CD into our server. So that's PACS, and that's a DICOM, specifically the language that's used for PACS. HL7 is the language that's used to communicate from the CT scanner to PACS, and also to the EMR. So we have a patient who shows up, just for example, at our hospital for a chest CT scan. They're put into the EMR by the registrar, and then that populates through the HL7. That EMR communicates to my CT scanner. So my CT scanner sees, oh, okay, there's a patient here for a CT abdomen. I don't have to input that information manually. Once I've completed the CT chest examination, I would discharge the patient through the EMR, but then I would go back to the CT scanner and use the HL7 connection to communicate that to PACS. So it would communicate the data of the examination from the CT scanner to PACS through the HL7 connection. Once it's in PACS, it's going to be stored in this DICOM format. So CT is basically, it's digital. It's all digital. It's very pointless, and especially in this day and age, to print images off of a CT scanner. Many facilities, most facilities in fact, don't even have a printer for printing CT images. It's just all done electronically. So image acquisition from a CT scanner to PACS should be direct digital DICOM capture, and this allows for full spatial resolution and image manipulation capability. So again, as I mentioned, even once the images are on PACS, we can manipulate the images and change, for example, the window and level, or annotate them, things like that. You can do an analog thing like frame grabbing, but I haven't done that in a long time, but it's there. It's in the GE scanners. I guess it is an option for a way to transmit information. Storing it. CTs make a whole bunch of data, and so archiving them is a process of saving image data from the original modality into some kind of electronic medium. And in this case, it's saying archive is only the image data is stored, but most facilities I've worked at have an additional tape drive archive where they do archive the raw data in addition to the image data. What would that look like? Well, most GE CT scanners have a tape drive in them, and the tape drive is just able to store much more information than like a CD or DVD-ROM, and it almost operates like a hard drive, so you can move things on and off of it very easily. So every exam is stored to a tape drive, and then the tape drives are saved within the exam room a lot of times, just in a file cabinet. So if for some example, 3 months from now, a physician comes in and says, "Hey, remember when you did a CT on Mr. Smith's chest? Well, I'd like to see some coronal reformats because we're planning for their surgery or for an oncology thing." So I could then, if I have the raw data saved to tape drive, I could then provide those additional reformats or the additional reconstructions. If all I have is the image data saved, I may not be able to manipulate that data much more than just windowing and leveling or annotating it. It may be very difficult to do. I definitely won't be able to do a reconstruction from it. I may be able to do a reformat, but it would be at the expense of some information being lost. So in that case, what we would have, would that be an offline storage case where I've saved things to a tape drive and that tape drive is kept offline. But what PACS is doing is it's storing things online. It's instantly accessible to any user that can log into PACS. They can readily see, okay, there's the CT image data. Data stored in the CT system hard drive is classified as which of the following? The answer is online. If it's on the CT hard drive, it is online. It's right there. It's available for anyone to access that can continue to do reconstructions or reformats from that raw data. A bunch of different kinds of storage devices. I mentioned magnetic tape drives. Most of what I've worked with has been GE scanners, and they almost always come with a magnetic tape drive readily available. In terms of storing sometimes for transmission to the patient or an outside physician's office who may not have access to PACS or what have you, we may store the images on a CD or DVD. Never actually saved a CT scan to a Blu-ray disc. But CDs and DVDs normally have plenty of room to save even 3D reconstructions and things like that. It may take them a while to load, but all the information can be saved there. So PACS is primarily, when a lot of people think about PACS, they're thinking about accessing PACS to view the patient's results and things like that. So PACS is really, it has to be used. It has to be very careful in the way it sorts images, and that the images can be readily accessed, because there's often a time considerations with any kind of healthcare. So the internet is increasingly being used for image distribution. So we do see, for example, remote PACS logins, and a doctor maybe working from their house is able to log in and use the PACS. But we have to be very careful in terms of security layers and passwords and usernames, virtual private networks. So I really encourage you never, ever to give out your username or password for PACS. It could be very easily misused. If for some reason, like I know sometimes when we're doing orthopedic work, there will be off-site facilities that need access to CT data in order to construct like a hip replacement or something like that. Those facilities typically should not be given access to PACS. The information should be transmitted to them on a CD drive, that just via the mail, like certified mail. All right, thanks.